Hi everyone, welcome to our talk this evening. We're going to take you on a journey with us, our journey from the wall of shame. So I'm Lizzie and this is Olivia, and we're both software engineers at The Economist. We're part of the engagement team and we mainly focus on user engagement. So the engagement team is a cross-functional team. We're made up of developers, QA, DevOps, UX and designers, as well as our product manager and delivery manager. So at The Economist, most of you will know, we don't focus on breaking news as such. So some of our user engagement techniques are slightly different, maybe, to some of our competitors. So this represents our goal. At The Economist, we have world-class journalism, and we want a website to match that. So our primary goal is to increase user engagement. But what really is user engagement, and how do you measure that? So we've decided to measure it with user bounce rate. This is the rate at which people bounce off our website. So if you come along, you read one article, and then you leave, you've effectively bounced. Ideally, the more articles you read, the more you're engaged and the more value you see in our product. So we want bounce rate to go down. So how are we going to achieve that as a team? Well, this time we're doing it slightly differently. We're going to own the whole user journey. Previously, lots of different teams own different parts of the journey. And this, when you put it together in one big experience, it makes for quite a few inconsistencies. So Olivia's going to show you some of those inconsistencies.
Yeah, okay, so our talk is called Our Journey from the Wall of Shame, so we should probably explain a little bit about what the Wall of Shame actually is. So in this day and age, anything you put on the internet is very open to feedback and critique. And we started getting some interesting feedback on our current site. So we decided to print off some examples, going away from digital, and started pinning them to a wall for us to see and for everyone in the office to kind of see as they walked past. And thus, the Wall of Shame was born. So this is the Wall of Shame. Before I zoom in any closer, I'm just going to flick back for a second. Has anybody, maybe not, but if anyone has been on the website recently and noticed some things, whoops, gone off. Notice some things that could be a candidate for the Wall of Shame. Yeah? Yeah? Pop-ups, yes. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, pop-ups is pretty much the main issue. So this is the Wall of Shame in all of its glory. Going to zoom in a bit closer on some of these examples so you have been warned. Number one. We wrote an article entitled, How to Fix What Has Gone Wrong with the Internet. And somebody very handily decided to write an article back to us, pointing out our hypocrisy, which, to be honest, I can't really blame them. So what we have here is our first call to action, saying, sign up now and you'll get a free special report. Followed by one here saying, sign up, you've reached your article limit. And another one here saying, and you'll get 12 weeks for €20, I think that says. And then we've got a nice big ad down the side and absolutely zero content other than the title and the subheadline. Next one. So here, more banners, more calls to action. So the funny thing about this is, as Lizzie was saying before, what we're doing now is we own our whole journey and our whole product. And previously, different parts of the site and different bits of software were added by different parts of the company. So that's exactly what we have here. And unfortunately, none of this is third parties. We did all of that to ourselves. So when you blank it out, what you can see is actually the only amount of content that's available to the reader is about 2/3 of the title. So I think if there's a competition for how many pop-ups can you have on one page, probably got quite a good candidate here. Maybe not. This is a screenshot of our old AMP site that Lizzie took on her way into work as she was trying to read an article. To be honest, she probably should have known better. So here, not even the cookie banner's safe, because we've got campaigns on campaigns. So in order to prevent history repeating itself, I thought we should probably approach things a little bit differently this time around. And before we even put hands to keyboards and did any dev work, we decided we should probably set down some principles as a team that we would adhere to. So number one, reader experience, key. So we want the reader's experience when they're on our website to match the quality of our journalism. Code quality, another really important factor. We want a code base that's easy to contribute to, understand, and maintain, and not like wading through treacle, as it was described by one of the previous devs. Site performance, essentially we just want a site that works properly and loads quickly. And then team culture is another one that we've really focused on. So we don't have any bias towards the highest paid person's opinion. We make sure we seek out and we really value everyone's opinions. There's no such thing as a silly question. And we're also trying to be a truly cross-functional team. So with that in mind, we're like, okay, ready to approach building this now. So how are we building it? Well, one thing we're doing slightly differently this time around is we're working a lot closer with editorial to develop a digital content strategy. I think most people recognize The Economist as primarily a print publication. That's a really strong brand, but actually we have a lot of online offerings that kind of get forgotten about sometimes. So we've got online-only articles, we've got the audio edition, we've got our lifestyle magazine as well, 1843. We've also got another really big part of the website. One of our most popular pages are the graphic detail pages. I think there might be some of the data journalism team here tonight. They're frequent visitors here. So we'll pass the torch over to them to speak next time. So all of this contributes to kind of a really seamless experience for users across products and across all of our content. Another thing that we're doing, as we've both said previously, is we're owning our entire product. And this is really good because there are always going to be pieces of software that need to be brought in for other parts of the company. For example, A/B testing. So sometimes we might want to implement a new feature, roll it out to a certain amount of customers and get some feedback on it, see how they feel about it. And that's great, and we can implement that. But when that's coming from a different part of the business and there's no monitoring or logging around that, more and more things are added and nothing's taken away, and the site performance just goes down. And really, it's the readers that feel the brunt of this. So I'm going to pass over to Lizzie now to tell you how we are working with UX and design as well.
Right, so what we have here is two examples of our reg wall. On the right-hand side, we have our old reg wall, and on the left-hand side, we have our new design for our reg wall. So reg walls and paywalls, we'll all agree, aren't the most exciting thing. Unfortunately, they are necessary for our business model. So on the left-hand side, we've introduced some new features. You can see the fade out in the text before we hit the reg wall. And this is just to really signal to the reader that it's not the end of the article. We've previously got some feedback around readers thinking they'd hit the end of the article when they hit the reg wall, and then either going to another article and hitting it again, or leaving our site completely. Now, I don't know how many Economist readers we have in the room, but we don't really go in for 2-paragraph articles. They're usually a lot longer than that. So we just want to signal to them that there is loads more content if they want to continue reading. The other thing we've done is we've created more of a separation between subscriber and registered journeys. So a registered user, you click the Join for Free button. This is free. And then you get 5 articles a month. And this is a simple add a few details, log in, and you get those articles. Once you enter those details, you get bounced back to the same article you were reading before. And then you can carry on and read 4 more articles. And then you can also subscribe if you wish to, which is where you pay your yearly subscription. But we really want people to be able to come and sample the content first so you can see how good it is, and then you will want to subscribe. So this is our new design, and we've reached a milestone recently. At the end of March this year, we did indeed launch our new AMP website. So I don't know how many of you have heard of AMP, but it was originally Accelerated Mobile Pages, open source HTML framework by Google, and the lightning bolt is for fast mobile loading times. So if you've ever searched for anything on Google on your mobile, you might see in the first few results a little lightning bolt in the top right-hand corner. These are all AMP web pages. Google prioritizes these because they are lightweight, fast loading, so it's better for search engine optimization, and you guys, as the reader, will have a better experience with them. So this in itself was a very good reason for us to prioritize doing an AMP website first. But other reasons we've done is because actually we had 2 separate code bases. So this makes it a lot easier for us as developers to launch on a different domain with a different code base. Yeah. Thank you. So if you've got some developers in the room, if you've had anything to do with web apps before, this will look very familiar to you guys. It's a very standard stack, I think. React, the most popular front-end framework out there, coupled with Node and GraphQL API. We've also decided to use Next.js. This is a React framework. So Next has a couple of nifty features that we're going to use in the next few releases, such as serverless and prefetching data. This will mean that we can have faster loading times for the data already on the page. And it also has a slightly simpler config than Create React App, so we could get up and running a lot quicker with that. The other thing we used was AWS for our hosting, just because the rest of our company already uses AWS, so this was a no-brainer. So, did it work?
So we like to think it's gone quite well so far. Fortunately for us, we've had time and we've had freedom. So because we, as I've said a couple of times before, because we own the whole journey of our product, we've allowed to be tech agnostic and choose the best tech stack for us, but also the one that kind of best works for displaying our editorial content and giving that really good digital journalism experience. We've also been really keen to learn from some of the mistakes of the old AMP site. For example, one of the biggest issues there, someone actually told me the code base wasn't bad. Always a good thing to hear. But the main issue is around the infrastructure. So what happened was when it was built, there wasn't really a lot of thought that went into the scale at which the site might need to run. So what happened is during really busy times when lots of people were trying to read our journalism, the app was being throttled and people couldn't access it. So this time around, we've really invested in making sure that we've got infrastructure that can scale. The big question is, though, has it all been worth it? So this is the new design of our AMP page. If you go to either amp.economist.com or you click through social media, you will hopefully come to this page if you're on a mobile device. So we like to think it looks a lot better, but more importantly as well, we've had a chat with our data team who have reliably informed us that engagement is indeed up. So we are achieving our goals, which is really, really good. So following the release of the new AMP site, the registrations went up from around 50 a day to over 300 a day, and that's been quite consistent since. So we're really proud of that, but even more importantly, bounce rate has gone down, and notoriously this is a really hard thing to do, and we've managed to do it through a part of our site which only generates 7% of the traffic. So it's a really good sign, and we're really hoping that we can carry that on into the future. So what next? It doesn't end there. So we've already started working on the article pages for the full site, and then we'll gradually move on to, we'll release those, and then we'll start building the topic pages and the section pages. And eventually we will move onto the homepage until we've completely rebuilt the site. That doesn't mean we forget about AMP. As Lizzie said, kind of the feedback that we get from AMP, because we've already built it, means that we can iterate on it. And if any technical debt comes up, it means we can address that as well. So yeah, hopefully in a couple of months we'll come back and let you know how the rest of it went, as long as it goes okay.
What did you mean 2 different code bases, and do you still have 2 different code bases?
Yes, we do.
Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, so for the developers out there, obviously we have different repositories in GitHub, and we had completely separate code bases for our AMP site, so it's its own app, fully functional, kind of very separate. They are 2 different domains as well, which makes it easier. And we currently do have 2 separate code bases, but we're planning to build on our current code base, the AMP one, and integrate the new site into that, so it will have one cohesive code base.
Hey, so it sounds like amazing work, and I was really impressed when you said that you got control of the whole user journey. So maybe this is an obvious question, but like how? What was the negotiation?
All of our developers left except Lizzie. Yeah, I think product generally are trying to... The way we do product at The Economist is changing. We've got our product manager at the back, Richard, so he can probably tell you more about that, not to put him on the spot. But yeah, the way we do product at The Economist is changing, and we're trying to be much more kind of user-focused, user-led, and kind of just across the board bring ownership of our various different products into the team's hands, just for kind of a much more cohesive and aligned experience that puts the user at the centre of it. Yes.
I've been a subscriber on and off, and the problem I always have is that the print copies start to build up, and I don't get a chance to read them. And I always thought a digital-only subscription would be a good idea because it would make me feel less guilty and I'd be less likely to cancel it. And I'm looking at your subscription page, and it says that there is a digital-only version, but because they all say introductory offer 12 weeks for only £12, all of them, print and digital or print, I don't even know whether I'm getting cheaper for not having the paper. Just some feedback from a long-time customer or occasional customer.
Yeah, firstly, thank you for that. It is feedback we've heard before, and we are aware of it. Unfortunately, because we're just the website, we're not able to control the difference between that. But as developers, we really understand the value in having kind of a clear offering that's different across different packages. So all I can say is that, especially like our UX team, Joey, our UX designer, he's super on board with all of this feedback. So just to let you know, it is being heard.
Hi, thanks, really interesting. I wondered, how do you go about collating and analysing user feedback?
Yeah, we have quite a few different techniques. We have obviously UX, and then also we have a data science team who we have analytics on the site. We see where people click. They can tell if people just come on for a few seconds and leave, or if they've actually gone through a few articles, and if they've come to the subscription page, seen that and left, they can also know that. So it's quite powerful data, that, and that's kind of what we want to do. We want to have data-driven development rather than just deciding that we think it's better for the user. We also are going to have A/B testing in future, where you put out new features to a portion of users and see how they react to that.
Question over here.
What do you think, looking back, was the biggest challenge you two faced?
While rebuilding AMP, or going from how the website was to, or how AMP was to now? I mean, I think you're probably in the best position to answer this. Maybe.
It was the change in business strategy that really helped get this through. Previously, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't own the whole journey, and that was the biggest challenge, to be honest with you. Because if you don't own it all, then you're not in charge of what happens, and you do not have the control that you need. So once we got control, and we are still fighting some battles there, then that made it a lot easier, basically.
Got one over here in the corner.
Hello. I'll stand up as I'm right at the back. I'm also a subscriber for many years. I'm struck by the tone of what you're saying as well. And forgive me for saying this, the slight diffidence towards what you already mentioned is still considered within the office primarily a paper product. And do you think it's fair to say that if The Economist had a digital-first strategy, this would never have happened, would never have been tolerated? And how long do you think it is before you get to a point where people my age, I imagine, kind of old farts running the place, realise that actually you do need to be digital first?
I think that's a really interesting question. I think the thing about The Economist is I don't think we will ever be digital first. We have such a prestigious print history. We still have a huge print subscription. So I don't think that will happen, but that doesn't mean that we can't invest in bringing our digital offering up to the same standard, because at the moment it doesn't really match up. And then we're allowing people to make that choice, and maybe people vote with their feet, and eventually if that kind of suggests some evidence to change things, the powers that be can decide that.
Hi. I use AMP on the site that I kind of upload stuff to, and it means I basically have to kind of upload 2 versions of every article that we use. So it was just a practical question, like how does that work for the people that upload content with the new site, and then also what do you said that the sign up rate on the new AMP pages like jumped to, I can't remember what it was, like by a lot. Is that just, do you put that down to any particular like features of AMP, or is it just like you just because the design is so much better, or what do you put that down to?
Sure. So to answer your first question, we have one CMS. So editors only upload their article once, and then we get this through our API, and then we put it either through an AMP page or a non-AMP page, depending on where the user comes from. So they don't have that trouble of double uploading. And the second question was, sorry.
The site, the what do you put down the rate and sign-ups to? Like?
Well, certainly the new design, I think, we've been able to experience it as a whole, and the reg wall is really the main place where people come to register. And with that being a lot clearer, I think before people didn't really understand what registering meant, and the join for free just says, signals, it is free, don't worry, you won't get charged. And that lets people sample it. And then we've also created, there's a new strategy, 5 articles per month, and I think it was slightly different before.
Got one more over here.
Thanks. You started with articles, and then you said you're moving on to topic pages and then home pages. I think for a lot of organisations, it would immediately be, let's do the home page first. It's the most important thing. So what was the thinking there, and how did you kind of get everyone on board with starting at that maybe perceived lower level?
So I think technically, as Lizzie was saying, from our perspective, building AMP first made sense because it was low risk. So we could build the article pages, have hopefully one of the biggest impacts on the readers who are coming from social media. And that kind of naturally led to, because the designs bar kind of a couple of differences are more or less the same for the article pages, it made sense to follow with those next. We've also got Richard, who just fields everything for us and kind of lets us have the freedom to work out how we think it's best to do. So obviously we do consult with editorial and various other aspects of the business to work out kind of what their priorities are. But it's a very collaborative process, and I think we're quite lucky in that. One more here.
Hi, thank you. I have 2 questions. First, you mentioned A/B testing. At what level will that take place? Like headline content, to what extent you will do A/B testing? And second, if you have any plans in regards to personalization in general.
Sure. So A/B testing could take place at any level. We have it on our main site at the moment, but we haven't introduced it on AMP yet. So I can't answer, but it could be on anything. New features, different headlines, web headlines versus print headlines. It honestly could be whatever UX dream up. And, sorry, what was the second one? Oh, yes. Obviously, that's a big thing these days, the FT doing particles and things like that. So we very much have that on our roadmap in the very far future for now, because we are concentrating on doing the whole website again, to be honest with you.
I think we've got time for one more question.
Just a simple one, I guess. But how much of a priority do you think AMP should be for your business, or a business like yours?
It's a good question. To be honest, quite high priority because of the impact that it has on search engine optimization and how our content is surfaced. And we have an increasingly bigger social presence, so it's really, really important from that perspective. On the other hand, as Lizzie said earlier, we don't do breaking news. That's not our model. So in terms of if you typed Brexit into Google, a lot of the time it's the breaking news carousel that pops up, which might have kind of The Guardian or someone else who does breaking news, and we wouldn't necessarily pop up there unless you specifically search for Economist. So I guess in terms of compared to other publishers, it's maybe slightly less important for us, but I still think it's really important.